Chris Coons, he sits on the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator Coons, you have put out a statement saying that Rex Tillerson was never really supported by the president when it came to personnel and trust. Do you think that that is why he was fired?
Well, I think both the timing and the process for the firing of our Secretary of State is deeply concerning. The timing suggests that the Secretary of State put out a very tough statement standing in solidarity with Prime Minister May and the people of the United Kingdom in pushing back against Russia's very aggressive action. And that may well have contributed to the abruptness and the very public nature with which Secretary of State Tillerson was let go.
It's also been clear, though, for some time, hasn't it, that when it came to important issues, North Korea sometimes, and the issue of Russia more recently, that Tillerson was not in lockstep with the president. And if you're not in lockstep with the president as the U.S. Secretary of State, you really can't be very effective.
That's right. It's a real challenge to be a Secretary of State where your president publicly cuts you out of major decisions, hands to his son-in-law rather than his chief diplomat critical initiatives around the world, or where the values put forward in the president's budget dramatically undermine the ability of the secretary to lead a successful diplomatic effort. The president has now 2 years in a row suggested slashing our Department of State by a third, and it's been very difficult for Secretary Tillerson to preside over our global diplomatic effort with that headwind in his face.
What do you make of the way this was all handled, this firing?
I'm concerned that the president may have been acting more out of the instincts he adopted in 10 years of presiding over a reality TV show where the ultimate end was to have him point at someone and yell, "You're fired," in order to win a TV audience, rather than a more measured, appropriate, disciplined process by which he could have transitioned from Secretary of State Tillerson to his now nominee CIA Director Pompeo. This is not a matter of commanding global TV attention. This is a matter of concern to our allies and encouragement to our enemies when the president fails to stand up to Russian aggression, particularly Russian aggression that has so directly impacted one of our most vital allies on earth, the United Kingdom.
So let's talk about Mike Pompeo, who is going to replace, assuming he's confirmed, Rex Tillerson as the new American Secretary of State. What changes in American policy when Mike Pompeo is running the Department of State? You've mentioned Moscow. He is pretty hawkish when it comes to Russia. The other area that he is notably more hawkish than Rex Tillerson on is the question of Iran and the nuclear deal. What happens now?
Well, my concern is that Secretary of State Tillerson was well known to have had tensions with President Trump over his urging that we stay in the Iran deal and work with our European allies to improve it or to address Iran's aggressive behavior in the region. I'm concerned that CIA Director Pompeo may simply encourage President Trump's instincts born of his campaign to tear up this deal rather than embracing the very real benefits we've seen. I frankly think, given the window we're in, where we are trying to negotiate some resolution with North Korea of their even more aggressive nuclear weapons program, that we have to be attentive to how Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea, sees our handling of the Iran deal negotiated by the previous administration here in the United States with our core European allies, as well as China and Russia.
Okay, Chris Coons, Senator from Delaware, thank you very much for joining me. I can tell you the world is watching all of this with fascination.
Thank you, Katie.